Well, good morning. It's Friday, and we're looking forward to the weekend. And I look forward to hopefully seeing many of you in church on Sunday morning. And I don't know about you, but the passage we've been looking at and the various topics that we've been addressing, they're very dear to my heart as a pastor, especially having been a missionary. They're very dear to my heart when I think about how the Lord has even worked through our own church and reaching into other parts of the world. Being a part of missions is an incredible blessing. It's an incredible blessing when we support good missionaries. It's an incredible blessing when you're a missionary that's supported by churches that are thinking biblically about these things. It's a blessing to see the Lord work. And so this is an important topic, and I hope that you've learned a lot from it. As we've worked our way through the passage, we've looked at three priorities. We'll look at a fourth one this morning. And then I want to give you some final thoughts. So I haven't read the entire passage each day, but this morning I'd like to do that just to remind us again. We'll hit a couple of the highlights, and then we will look at this last piece and the final thoughts. Romans chapter 15, verses 14 to 24. Here's what the Word of God says. And I myself also am persuaded of you, my brethren, that ye also are full of goodness, filled with all knowledge, able to admonish one another. Nevertheless, brethren, I have written the more boldly unto you in some sort, as putting you in mind because of the grace that is given to me of God, that I should be the minister of Jesus Christ to the Gentiles, ministering the gospel of God, that the offering up of the Gentiles might be acceptable, being sanctified by the Holy Ghost. I have thereof, whereof I may glory through Jesus Christ in those things which pertain to God. For I will not dare to speak of any of those things which Christ hath not wrought by me, to make the Gentiles obedient by word and deed, through mighty signs and wonders, by the power of the Spirit of God, so that from Jerusalem and round about unto Illyricum I have fully preached the gospel of Christ. Yea, so I have strived to preach the gospel, not where Christ is named, lest I should build on another man's foundation. But as it is written, to whom he was not spoken of, they shall see. They that have not heard shall understand. For which cause also I have been much hindered from coming to you. But now, having no more place in these parts, having a great desire of these many years to come unto you, whensoever I come on my journey into Spain, I will come to you. For I trust to see you in my journey, and to be brought on my way thitherward by you, if first I be somewhat filled with your company. Now, we've looked at this passage in fairly significant depth this week, and we started with the priority of a healthy church. If a church is not healthy, then it's really not positioned to be doing the things that Paul has called us to do here. The second priority that we looked at was the importance of prudence in our partnerships. And obviously, the Apostle Paul was a great example of someone who was a great ministry partner. We then moved from that to look at the thoroughness of the Apostle Paul's ministry in establishing this infrastructure in the region that was not just reaching people with the gospel, but it was establishing local churches that were strong enough and healthy enough to actually reach their local community, and they could actually send out people to establish new churches in other regions. This morning, what I'd like us to look at in closing is the fourth of the priorities that we find in the text, and that is the priority of a tangible investment of time and resources. We find this in verse 24, where Paul writes, Whensoever I take my journey into Spain, I will come to you, for I trust to see you in my journey, and to be brought on my way thitherward by you, if first I be somewhat filled with your company. You ask, well, what exactly is Paul saying? Paul is saying that he wants there to be a tangible investment between him and the church at Rome, and between the church at Rome and him. Paul wanted to invest in the church, and he wanted the church to invest in him. And he wanted them to invest together in God's plan for reaching people who were lost in the far western regions of the Roman Empire. There are two ways that this investment could be tangibly given. And the first is an investment of time that would ultimately build a mutually encouraging relationship. The Apostle Paul wanted his relationship with the people at the Church of Rome to be a rich mutual investment. And, he was thinking about people who he knew at Rome. There were people that had ministered with him that he sent to Rome. There were people that he had ministered with who went back to Rome who had originally lived there before they met the Apostle Paul. For example, Aquila and Priscilla. These were people that were very dear to Paul. They had ministered with Paul in lots of different places. And so when Paul talks about his desire for a mutually encouraging relationship, he's thinking about a relationship with a church very similar to the relationship that he had with Aquila and Priscilla, his dear friends. The second aspect of this investment was an investment of financial resources to sustain the faithful ministry work that he had. Now, when we talk about the Apostle Paul was able to take care of himself in a couple of different ways. For instance, when he went to Corinth, the Apostle Paul was not financially being underwritten by any church. He was not drawing a salary from the people he was ministering to at Corinth. Paul was working with his own hands. He was a tent maker. He was supplying his own needs by the labors of his own hands. But that's not always the way that the Apostle Paul operated. Sometimes the Apostle Paul would require, or he would request, that a church would minister to him financially. And so when he's coming to the church at Rome with this letter, he's saying, I want you to participate in the ministry I'm going to have in Spain by encouraging me as I go and by financially supporting me as I head to this region. And what the Apostle Paul is requesting is very similar to what missionaries are requesting when they come and they present their work in our church. They're saying, we want to minister to you. We want to be encouraging to you. We want you to be encouraging to us. And we want you to consider financially partnering with us in the work in the region where we're going. And so Paul's desire was that there would be two kinds of tangible investments, one that was material, financial, and one that was immaterial, that would be the mutual encouragement of relationship. The second point that I want to make is that is what our missions month is all about. Our missions month is about building relationships, where a missionary comes and pours into us and we are strengthened, where a missionary comes and we encourage them and we strengthen them as they go to the next place that they're ministering. It's about relationship. It's also about considering partnership. And I pray that as some of these missionaries come in, God would touch our heart to say that's a missionary that we would like to financially invest in, and we would like our partnership to not just be relational, but we would like it to be a ministry partnership where we are like-minded enough that we support them financially. You say, well, Joel, what is kind of the final thought for all of these things we've talked about this week? Well, let me summarize it this way in what I hope is a very practical summation of this section. The first thing that we should desire is that our foremost priority as we look at this passage is that we would be a church that is healthy. When I say a healthy church, I mean that the culture of our church is healthy enough that it is a place where people are being converted, they're hearing the gospel, they're embracing the gospel, and that true disciples of Christ are being built up in the faith so that they are becoming strong, spiritually mature disciples of Christ. That is our foremost priority. Our second priority is that we would be a place that carefully vets those whom we choose to partner with. If we're going to minister with an individual, we want to make sure that this is a person who has the character, the disposition, the mindset, the work ethic that is going to be a prudent partnership. The third thing is that we want to work with like-minded missionaries who have been conscientiously scrutinized and sent out by healthy local churches who are really validating that what we see and what they have seen are in fact the same. The fourth thing I'll mention is that we want to pray that our ministry partners will stay faithful in the work and remain motivated in the work of establishing a healthy church infrastructure. You say, well, Joel, what is a healthy church infrastructure? It's a mission field that is filled with self-governing, self-supported, self-propagating local churches. Missionaries who are not going to establish a church that they will pastor for decades, but they are going to a place where they will minister to those who will be the next generation of pastors and teachers. that they will be involved in shepherding churches to the point where they are strong enough to be pastored by men who are from that community. And then the last piece is this: we need to purposefully and generously commit to partner with other missionaries. That's my prayer, that we'll be able to do that. As we think about these things, I hope that it'll be something we chew on throughout the weekend. If this has been an encouragement to you, please take a moment to just share that. If you think that there are people out there that you know that could be encouraged by this, that perhaps this would challenge them in their thinking, maybe send it to a missionary. I hope that you'll send them these things so that they can be encouraged by it. And Lord willing, tomorrow we will be able to rest up and then go into our Sunday morning service with just an excitement about what God is going to do in our hearts. That's my challenge to you going into the weekend. Lord willing, we'll meet again on Sunday, and then we'll be at our next Anchor into the Word on Monday. Have a blessed weekend. Bye now.